What has it been like for you to work and portray Navy SEALs on TV?
It's really wild because I never grew up, never really cared too much about Superman or Spider-Man. My real life childhood superheroes were American Special Operations. So every time, I get to meet dudes from that world, people, and it's not just special operations, the more time I spent in Afghanistan with conventional forces, you realize that these men and women all possess characteristics which make them superhuman. When you listen to their stories and you listen to the sacrifices, and I'm not just talking about on the battlefield sacrifices, I'm talking about sacrificing your life, your freedom, your family, so that you can defend this nation and our families here domestically. It's inspiring.
What's doing, everybody? I'm Alec Lace. Thank you for watching First Class Fatherhood. Today's guest on the podcast is Justin Melnick. Justin is an actor who portrays a Navy SEAL on CBS's smash hit series SEAL Team. You guys know I've had a lot of Navy SEALs on the podcast here. It's awesome to have a dad who is portraying a Navy SEAL on the screen. So get down there, smack the subscribe button, tap that like, and let's jump into it right now with Justin Melnick on First Class Fatherhood. Joining me now, First Class Father, Justin Melnick. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start right here. How many kids do you have? How old?
So I've got a 5-month-old, and then I have 2 stepchildren. One's 3, and one is a 7-year-old girl going on 21.
Okay, very cool. With the new one there, the 5-month-old, did you guys know what you were having? Did you wait to the end? Did you do a gender reveal? How'd that work out?
No, we figured out what we were having as soon as we could, so we could plan. And, with the state of the world in right now, gender reveals weren't really something on our plate, nor sadly with the time with filming the show and, running a full-time ranch. So we knew it was a boy, and we were able to plan properly and get all the fixings that we needed to make him a happy little nugget when he got out.
Yeah, good stuff. If you could, Justin, please just take a minute here to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
Name's Justin Melnick, 40 years old. Grew up in New York. Ended up working around the world as a combat freelance photographer. And then finished that, worked part-time as a police officer in Indiana, and kind of had a little consulting company on the side that kind of dealt with military and law enforcement, and ended up on CBS's SEAL Team and spent the last 5 years living in LA and filming the most fun TV show in the world.
Yeah, obviously the show has been a smash hit. I'm going to jump back into that in just a minute here. So take me back then to the beginning of your fatherhood journey there. I know you said you had the older stepkid. So about how old were you then when you first became a dad, stepdad? How did becoming a father kind of change your perspective on life?
I've been uncle to a lot of kids. Finding out my wife was pregnant was, obviously life-changing. So found out we were having a baby and got really excited. And, I was planning on asking her to marry me anyway, regardless. I was just going to wait till New Year's Eve because I wanted to do it on the same night that we had our first kiss. So I was going to wait till New Year's, but we were having the baby. So we were like, let's just get married now. So we, one of my buddies who's a local sheriff where we live, also has his certificate to marry people. So he came up and we found the most beautiful hill on our ranch that has a great view of the sunset, and brought the 2 other kids up to be the ring bearer and the flower girl. And Dita came up, my dog, and helped, and just had a really beautiful, quiet ceremony.
Yeah, wow, very cool. What would you consider, Justin, to be the top values that you hope to instill in the kids growing up?
Honesty, reliability, acceptance, being able to accept people for who they are. Honesty is a huge core value for me, especially with my kids. If you can't trust somebody, that's, the first step to a massive fall down a cliff. So Reliability is very important. Being a reliable human being is so integrity, responsibility, honesty. Those are the three things that I really, really, really stress. And the final one is accountability. I feel like in today's world, people aren't accountable, and accountability is everything. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to make a mistake, but you need to own it. You need to apologize for it, and you need to make sure you don't do it again. And having that accountability, I think, leads to being a good person.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And talking about accountability, one group of guys that I know are always you can count on is the Navy SEALs. And I've had the honor of having so many of them. I've had over 60 of them on the podcast here. I've become very friendly with so many of them over the years now. And I know that, you work, right there with them filming this SEAL team. So take me to what was the genesis of you getting involved in SEAL team, and what has it been like for you to work and portray Navy SEALs on TV?
It's really wild because I never grew up, never really cared too much about Superman or Spider-Man. The Punisher was pretty cool and Batman was pretty cool, but my real life childhood superheroes were American Special Operations. So, every time, I get to meet dudes from that world, people, and it's not just special operations, the more time I spent in Afghanistan with conventional forces, you realize that these men and women all possess characteristics which make them superhuman, and incredibly inspiring. And when you listen to their stories and you listen to the sacrifices, and I'm not just talking about on the battlefield sacrifices, I'm talking about sacrificing your life, your freedom, your family, so that you can defend this nation and our families here domestically. It's inspiring.
Yeah, well, listen, I couldn't agree with you more there. I love that I had the opportunity just to speak to some of these guys. I think what they do, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't even have a chance without them. So it's always awesome when I have a chance to get to listen to their fatherhood journeys, because I know, like you mentioned there, they do sacrifice so much. And then jumping back into you here with the new 5-month-old there, what does your bedtime routine look like here, Justin? Are you a lullaby guy? Are you a storyteller? You're reading books? How's that working out?
No, I mean, sadly, filming this show is very similar to a deployment. I don't get to go home more than 3 nights a week and see him, sadly, right now while we're in production. So my wife does most of the bedtime stuff, but normally, feed him a bottle, put him in his little sleep sack, get him in his crib. And he's a really good sleeper. He's been a very easy baby. I've got nothing to compare him to, but my mom and my wife both tell me he's a very easy baby.
Well, listen, obviously this has been a tough year, a tough time to have a baby with the pandemic going on. It's really rearranged a lot of how that goes on now. Were you able to go to all of your wife's appointments for the baby? Were you able to be there for the birth? How did the pandemic kind of affect the pregnancy and the birth of the child?
Oh, I lost the camera there. Well, we got very lucky. His due date was April 3rd. So it was right after the crazy mandates got lifted. So I was able to go visit her in the hospital. I was able to be there for the birth. It was really, really life-changing, as anyone that has done that before.
Yeah, very cool. Now, has becoming a father, has that kind of like maybe shifted you as an actor as far as maybe which particular roles that you'll choose to play?
I think when it comes to film and television stuff in my future, it has to be roles that I'm interested in. Like, I want to play cops. I want to play feds. I want to play Army. I want to play Navy. I want to play CIA. I want to be on sets, and I want to be in shows where I'm outside running around, hanging out with awesome people. Like going to a sitcom comedy and shooting on a soundstage is not interesting to me. And, I love my work and I love my job, but I love it because it's exactly what I want to do. I don't care about being famous. I don't care about being on TV or in movies. You know, I care about being around people that I like and environments that I like. And there's no amount of money in the world that would get me to change that, just because money's no good if you're miserable.
Yeah, really good stuff there, Justin. And what kind of advice do you have for parents out there that have kids that are hoping to pursue or are trying to pursue a career in acting, in entertainment? How would you tell the parents there how to steer the kids?
Listen, a happy parent makes a happy kid. If you're working a job you're miserable at, do what you love. You know, figure as long as you're not lazy, you'll always figure out a way. There's always a hustle, and chase your dreams. But you know, set life is just not conducive for families. It's sad. It's heartbreaking. I love the people that I work with, and I love my family. And I tell you, if this wasn't a show that meant so much to me, I'd probably be gone right now, because I don't get enough time with my family. And life is short and life is fragile. And the last thing I want to do is be sitting on my deathbed and regretting not being with them. But this show is more than just a show. It's more than just a paycheck. I really believe in the message that it puts out there. It's a show that so many of our men and women that carry a gun in defense of this nation, both domestically and abroad, love to watch. And, you know, if you're military, law enforcement, first responder, life isn't very easy for people. So to be able to give someone 45 minutes of a show that they can watch and feel is authentic and real is, you know, it's the greatest reward out of everything that I do.
Yeah, and you're right on point there too, Justin. From a lot of the SEALs that I've spoken with, I haven't heard any knocks on it as far as the way that they're being represented. I know it's important to them in their community of how they're represented on screen, and they've had problems and issues with other performances. So I think you guys are doing a great job, and that's, you know, it gets the seal of approval from the SEALs themselves. So that's always helpful. What about for you here? What kind of projects or any other acting roles? I know obviously the SEAL team you're working on. Do you have any other kind of works in production? What's next for you?
You know, that's the thing about Hollywood is, you know, there's all these things on the table, but until you step on set and the cameras are rolling, nothing's going, you know? So yeah, I've got a couple other things in the works right now. And the second I have a call sheet and I'm showing up, then I count it as a job.
Yeah, understood. Okay, last thing I want to hit you with here, Justin. I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about to be father who's out there listening?
Ask questions. You know, don't be afraid to reach out to people who've done it before. And the one thing I learned is babies aren't as fragile as they seem.
Yeah, they bounce back. So I agree with you there. I love the message. This has been a lot of fun for me. I got to say, Justin Melnick, you're a first-class father all the way. And thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on First Class Fatherhood.
Thanks for having me. Take care.